It does take a village to build a franchise organization. And first of all, I will tell you that my team, probably just like yourself, they make us look good. My team absolutely made me look good. They allowed me to do what I did best, but I always hired people that were better than me in every category. And I think, we can never forget that that's what it takes to really build a franchise organization. So with that said, tell me about how many people are on your corporate team and how do we make the machine tick? What do they all do?
Sure, yeah. So we have about 14 employees here at the corporate organization. And then we also have a bunch of lesson plan and script writers. So I'd mentioned we've started creating these videos or built out a video platform that gets used by the franchisees. So we take our existing lessons, the group of script writers goes through them, analyzes them, tests those scripts and those experiments, and then converts them to an actual script, which gets filmed. So, I call them part-time because that's a seasonal role for us where we work on, if we're working on our summer camp lessons, that's where we need more of our lesson plan and script writers. But that's the total group. And overall, we're in this environment of being hybrid. So we've kind of got employees all over the nation. And that works out really well with supporting our franchisees as well.
In terms of helping franchisees getting clients, tell me about your marketing?
Sure. So we pride ourselves in creating digital assets that the franchisees need. So we have, whether it's email campaigns, social media, or even any of their, for their social media on a monthly basis, we have a social media package that our marketing team puts out. And I see some of them just literally copy pasting that because that is the goal of it, is that a franchisee who is wearing so many multiple hats doesn't have to worry about what they put on their social media pages.
Right.
And then we also encourage them to gather their own voice from their community, whether it's community posts or pictures, whatever they can do in terms of being compliant with the regulations that they've got in their area and territory. We kind of encourage them with that.
And what about the franchisees themselves? Like, who is your ideal franchise owner? Do they have to have a STEM background? Can they be just a business person?
It can be anybody. It can be a business person. It can be somebody who's just looking to give back to the community. I think the saying that we've said internally within our organization that would be great to share with you is we look for someone who can be the mayor in their community. And what that means is someone who's really championing, who might be PTO president, just doesn't hesitate to go do the right thing for their community. I think that is the big part here, because you would need to communicate with your schools in the neighborhood, talk to them, see if they're open to the after school program, bring in families and truly care about, it goes back to that passion that we were talking about earlier, truly being passionate about educating this next generation.
Right. And as a franchisee, then am I hiring a manager or director to actually run the facility?
So we have two models. We have a franchisee run model where you could do it yourself along with teachers that you hire for your location, or we have locations that have managers. So I'd mentioned Adam, who's our franchisee in Austin. He was doing it himself, and then recently since he's working on a second location, he hired a manager or director for his location. And it does depend on your licensing requirements in your state. If there is a requirement to have somebody there who's licensed.
Interesting. You kind of touched on that earlier, and I totally missed that early on. Tell me about the licensing requirements, just overall. What would be some of the licensing requirements that I would expect in some states?
In some states, Frank, there might be an age requirement for your teachers.
Okay.
So you might have a state which says after school, they call them after school paraprofessionals, need to be at least 18 years or older. So we really guide our franchisee to looking up what their requirements are in their states, because it really differs state to state. Like, I don't even know exactly. In Texas, I know we've got a little bit more laxer regulations around some of those spaces, but being in compliance is because these children are in your care. There are no parents, right? You could be picking up a 5-year-old and bringing them to your facility, and then they're staying with you from the afternoon up until the time that they actually get picked up. So regulations are something that would be big in terms of anybody who's looking at this space as a prospect franchisee.
Well, that's obviously going to come into play in building out my franchise system. And also as a multi-unit potential franchise owner, I want to go back to, what was the gentleman's name in Austin?
Adam.
Yes. Okay. So like Adam's role is going to change now, because now in order for him to grow his business, he's going to have to get out of his own way, right? He's going to have to hire a manager or somebody to run it. It's going to make him a better business owner as well. Would you agree?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And I've done that, right? I was an operator that operated 4 locations of a different franchise. And I had a top performing location to one that did not perform so well all the way. So, I wore different hats for all those locations. We had 60 part-time employees at those locations. And it really changed my role as every location was added on, from just being the manager at every single location to now really, being the strategic leader, where you're trying to get everybody together towards working around the same mission, vision, almost like they say, like rowing in the same direction, because that's truly when magic happens.
Absolutely. Yes. And it's okay for a franchisor. I'm speaking to you as someone who was a franchisee in the past. It's okay for the franchisor and franchisee to have that push-pull relationship. We got to be rowing in the same direction, but let's face it, there's going to be conflict, there's going to be disagreement at times, but strategically we need to be pulling in the same direction.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah, there could be a lot of positive energy out of conflict. At least that's what happened. That's what happened to me in my career.
Yeah, no, I mean, hey, life would be too boring if there was not any conflict, right?
And I can say this now, but looking back then, I probably didn't appreciate it. I'm like, oh, good, conflict. Something good's going to come out of this. Heck no, I was probably stressed out of my mind at the time. But I look back and we grew because of the challenges. You don't grow when you're succeeding. You grow when you're having a challenge, or, when you're putting out a fire.
Yeah, so true. Just yesterday we had, I'm local here in Houston, so I had a EdTech panel that I put together. And the topic of that EdTech panel was, why do education companies fail? Controversial topic, but exactly that one question brought about so many stories and nuggets on challenges during failure, and how startups, entrepreneurs, founders, came out of those challenges successfully.
And what's your opinion? Why do you think most fail?
Yeah, I think it's, I would maybe narrow it down to focus, Frank. Just staying uber focused to your mission and really knowing what are you trying to do. As putting my franchisor hat on, when we started building this franchise, we had to really, buckle down on compliance and understand what is it that we are really putting together. We cannot do everything for the franchisee, right? There's things that they have to do. So sure. It took us as a system, some time to understand that it's really, we're providing them with a standard set operating procedure and great programming that then can be replicated and created in their environment or in their community, bring it out into their community. So really, I think if a franchisee comes in and doesn't have that laser focus on what exactly are they going to do, and maybe knowing their strengths, right? I think I, as a leader, a lot of times think back to what my strengths are, and I try to surround myself with people that can offset those strengths or my weaknesses, so that I've got somebody else to lean on in those spaces. So I would encourage your listeners to think a lot about their strengths when they're considering whether it's a franchise they're opening or their first startup business. Just be uber focused and think about your strengths and what you bring to the table.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group, LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.